What's up, guys? I hope everybody's doing well. Haven't really done one of these vlog posts in a while. Been laying kind of low on morningencouragement.com. If you're not kind of caught up in what I've been doing, I put the blog on the back burner a little bit. I went back to school in January. Some different things came up that I'm trying to focus my attention on and just learn a little bit more about myself, doing some kind of internal looking around at my heart and my soul to try to just pursue healing in a couple of different areas. So, been working diligently on that, and I'll pick up the blog again on a more regular basis, probably later on this summer. And if you want to know more about what's going on, I actually wrote about it back in January. I think the blog post is called I think it's Beach Balls and Splinters, something like that. So go to morningencouragement.com, look that up, and read a little bit more about it if you're interested. But real quick, I wanted to share something with you that God brought up in my devotions the other day, and I thought it was kind of interesting and encouraging to me and challenging. So I just wanted to pass it along to you as well. It comes from the story of Joseph. And if you're not aware of the story of Joseph, it's kind of a crazy story about this really ridiculously dysfunctional family. Like if you thought that your family was messed up, read about this kid's family. It is wild stuff. So Joseph was this teenager. I guess he was about a teenager, and he had a dream, and he dreamt that he was like this ruler, this leader of this land, and that his brothers were under him, and his father and his whole family was like under his rule. And he wakes up from this dream, and he runs to his brothers, and he tells them all about it. Probably not the best idea, right? He had a dream that he was ruling over his brothers. There was older brothers. They don't really like him anyway because he's the father's favorite, and so the brothers get upset, and they take him and they sell him into slavery. And he becomes the slave or the servant of this guy named Potiphar. Now, Joseph lives his life in Potiphar's house in a very godly manner. And he does so well. Potiphar likes the guy so much that he puts Joseph in charge of his entire household. So everything that Potiphar owns is under the rule or the authority of Joseph. So he's a servant, he's a slave, but he's risen to the top, right? Because he's a leader. He becomes a leader in Potiphar's house. Potiphar's wife begins to like Joseph, takes a liking to him, and she repeatedly tries to get Joseph to go to bed with her. Joseph, being the godly guy that he is, says, I'm not going to do that. I'm not about that, that kind of life, so I'm not doing it. And one thing led to another. She ended up accusing Joseph of trying to rape her. So Potiphar, of course, believes his wife, gets upset, has Joseph tossed into prison. Now, while Joseph's in prison, he develops this art of being able to interpret dreams. There's a couple guys there who he interprets their dreams. The interpretations turn out to be correct with the way that the events of their life unfold. And the Pharaoh, the head guy, the king, right, in Egypt, he gets word that Joseph is a dream interpreter. And Pharaoh's been having some crazy dreams. He doesn't understand what they mean. So he calls upon Joseph to interpret the dream. Joseph interprets the dream. And next thing you know, Joseph becomes Pharaoh's right-hand man. And later on in the story, there's a famine in the land and all this stuff is happening. Joseph's family, who he hasn't seen in years and years and years, ends up right at his feet, begging for food. And so the dream that Joseph had when he was a kid, right, that was obviously put on hold as he went into slavery, and then he was thrown into prison, ultimately became true, became a reality later on in his life. And what I thought to myself is, isn't that the way that life works? Like I know for me, like right now, one of the things that I'm really thinking a lot about are the dreams that I've had growing up. Dreams that I had as a kid, dreams that I had when I was in school, dreams that I'm having now that I'm in school again. Just trying to think about what are those dreams and when did those dreams start? When did they originate? When did they begin? And what I'm finding is that they began a long, long time ago. And here I am, some 5, 10, 15, even 20 years later. And I'm starting to see pieces of those dreams come together, but they're still not together yet in the fullness of what I believe that God is going to make them be. And I thought about Joseph, and I thought, you know what? Joseph had that dream of being a leader when he was a teenager, but he wasn't ready to be a leader, right? It was the time in prison, the time as a servant, the time in the middle of the dream and the reality of the dream that got him ready to ultimately step into the dream. And again, I started thinking about my own life, and I had a lot of dreams when I was a kid, and a lot of dreams when I was in school, and when I was in seminary, right? And after I had those dreams, I kind of went and I pastored a church, and I worked at Starbucks, and we planted a church, and now I'm at Apple, and the dream hasn't really come to fruition yet, but I can see it, I can sense it, I can feel it, and I know that ultimately it's coming. But the dream that I had back here when I was younger, when I was a kid, when I was in seminary, I was in school, I wasn't ready for it yet. And it was only these other times of working at Starbucks and even working at Barnes and Noble and working at the small cafe that I worked at, working as the pastor of Fairfield Reformed Church, planting a church with Dana, now working at Apple. All of these pieces are fitting together to ultimately make me ready for when God is going to birth this dream in my life. And I hope that can encourage you a little bit, because maybe you feel like God has given you some kind of a vision or a dream for your life. Maybe you dream that you're going to be an actor or a musician or a photographer or an artist, or you're gonna be a stay-at-home mom or even a stay-at-home dad, or you're gonna start a business, or you're gonna start a church, or you're gonna pastor a church or go back to school, or I don't know what it is, but maybe you have this dream of something that God is going to do, and so far it just hasn't happened yet. I wanted to encourage you and challenge you to know that it hasn't happened yet because you're not ready for it yet. And the things that are happening in your life and the stuff that God is doing, those are things that are piecing together pieces of the puzzle that are falling into place that are ultimately going to make you ready to step into the destiny that God has for your life. So I hope that can encourage you a little bit. Take that away, think about it, pray about it. Hit up morningencouragement.com. There's a couple other fun things on there that I put on there today, and I hope you guys have a good night. See you later.